Whelan Presley Funeral Home and Crematory, a proud supporter of WQPT, has been serving Quad City families since 1889. They now have live stream capabilities for viewing your loved one's funeral or memorial service.
At IHM VCU, we've always been here for you. You are and always will be our top priority. We care about your financial and physical health, and we are here. IHM VCU is a proud supporter of WQPT.
How strong are we as the pandemic starts to wane? And Galesburg's Orpheum Theater ready for Christmas and beyond? Welcome to the Cities. The COVID-19 pandemic shut down the nation last year, and this year has been 12 months of slow recovery. It begs the question, what will 2022 be like? Though there's a new variant, Omicron by name, it doesn't seem to be a show-stopping, business-shuttering, school-closing virus like COVID-19 was almost 2 years ago. But unlike 2 years ago, we're now facing rising inflation, a clogged supply chain of goods, and a pent-up demand among households and consumers who have kept the money they have in their wallets. We talked with a leading economist who helps project the future and the economic trends for our region and our nation. Kevin Depew, RSM Chief Deputy Economist, sat down with me shortly after he addressed a special program for members of the Quad Cities Chamber. You seem very bullish. Is that the right word for 2022?
I would say I'm very optimistic about the economy. I'll leave the bullish characterization for the stock market gurus. I'm not one of those, but with the economy specifically, very optimistic. The structure is in place for a robust economy, not just for 2021, but also looking out to 2022 and 2023.
Why is it? Is it because the American economy is so resilient? We got through this. As you said, there's pent-up demand. People are ready to work. People are ready to get the COVID in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, we are a resilient economy. That's one of the key themes that we've emphasized really beginning around April and May, once we started to get to a point where, okay, we know that what the lockdown means. We get a sense of what the response is going to be. Even if we don't know what the virus does, we at least know that we have a baseline of understanding of what to expect in terms of policymaker response, not just in the U.S., but globally. So yeah, I think that resilience is the first word I would use to characterize it. Meanwhile, if we did not have the pandemic and you and I were having this conversation, my message would be the same, because it's based on the structure of the economy as it developed from the Great Recession over that long period once we got to 2020. It just so happens that a pandemic occurred on top of that, which complicates the understanding of it. But there's nothing specific to the pandemic that has created a good economy. In fact, the perception is the opposite of that. But the structure, it's not been just a couple of quarters in the making. It's been really more than a decade in the making.
It's a good thing that you pointed out perception. I mean, that really does have an awful lot to do with even the projections for 2022.
Absolutely. Now, we're inundated with all the negative stories about everything that's happening, and you know, not the least of which is just the number of excess deaths that we've had attributable to COVID or whatever. And so it's a tragedy that we're living through. So I understand if there is this perception that things aren't great right now. But what I look at is over the last 20 years, we've been through 9/11, we've been through the dot-com crash, the corporate debt bubble. We had a structural financial crisis that, in terms of the structure of the economy, dwarfs the impact in terms of the data of what has happened during the COVID and the pandemic. So, you know, the structure is such that we are in a good position now. And we've been resilient not just throughout the COVID-19, but through all those events that have happened over the past 20 years. So I get it, that's a laundry list, and if you look at that, why would your perception be anything but that these are tough times, they're dark times, and I don't believe that the economy is going to continue to be as robust as the data show.
We're kind of asking a macro question about the overall economy, but there are haves and have-nots. Are there areas that you see concern?
Yeah, there are, especially the bottom 2 quintiles of income earners that have fallen out of the labor market or that are only now starting to see wage increases that mirror what the top 3 quintiles of income earners have. So we can get by that from an economist perspective, looking at the data, is that, yeah, the top 2 quintiles of income earners account for about 60% of consumer spending. So, you know, I understand that people can kind of skip past what's happened for lower income earners. At the same time, you have a crucial cohort of workers, 25 to 34-year-old women that have been burdened not only with primary child care responsibilities in a pandemic age where it's challenging to find child care for your children, even school-age children, but also primary elder care responsibilities. And throughout the pandemic, while the average worker initially saw their wages decline by about 3.7%, they saw their incomes decline by almost 5%. So they have been disproportionately impacted by that. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. And I want to be very clear that in the aggregate, the economy and the structure is very sound. But certainly within pockets of it, lower income earners, hourly workers, those who do not have the skills to compete in a work-from-home hybrid environment, those women 25 to 34-year-old, that there are still challenges there that have not gone away.
What we have noticed since the pandemic is that, especially when you look, and you mentioned the Deere strike, and the settlement of that contract, where they got a large increase compared to the very first contract offer. You take that and you take the rising minimum wage that may be imposed in some areas in some states, but in other areas companies are doing it. Does it seem like workers are more in the driver's seat than they were before the pandemic?
Yes, and that is a significant shift from what we've seen over the past 40 years. So if you look at the way wages and matched up with profitability of firms over that long period, it was quite clear that particularly at the hourly wage level, they didn't keep up. So you had a long period where, and I personally, most of my career has been that as someone who graduated from college in the early 90s, there's always been somebody right behind me to take my job if somebody doesn't like what I'm doing. These days, that's not the case. There's not always somebody right behind you who is waiting to take your job. And employers are finding that. That's a demographically driven issue. So there's no easy answer to it. The reality is that we don't have labor supply sufficient to meet the current demand for labor. It remains to be seen whether automation and robotics and those types of things start to replace labor at a rate where all of a sudden the employer is back in the driver's seat and the employee is kind of like, okay, well, can I do this work now or not? So,
the other point that you made that I thought was quite interesting was household income. A lot of people feel they're in a tight squeeze, but you're saying that since in the last 15 years, Americans have been making sure that they pay down their debt and also that they get ready, basically bracing for what comes next.
Well, the data show that it looked like, in terms of household savings, running far above the long-term average and the 2001 to say 2008 period, where we consistently saved below the long-term average. Households spent the better part of a decade preparing for some kind of recession, and unfortunately, that recession was a devastating health crisis. So not to minimize that, but households have done a lot of hard work in the aggregate preparing themselves for what the economy looks like longer term. So they have been bracing. I think that risk aversion has its roots in the impact of the Great Recession. This impact has not been as devastating in terms of the labor market and in terms of incomes as the Great Recession was. So that's the good news, but it still doesn't make anybody feel better because this is a devastating health crisis.
Well, leading up to 2007, 2008, with the Great Recession, I mean, when you look at the aughts, let's say 2000 until that period of time, it almost reminds you of the Roaring '20s in a way, that we were spending more than we had, and then we paid for it.
That's the great irony to me. I've seen a lot of articles over the last couple of years, people pointing to the stimulus and the stimulus checks and the support for household incomes as being the trigger for what will be the new Roaring 20s. Well, we had the Roaring 20s. It's just that they occurred prior to 2020 and that 2005 through 2007 period. So there was wild speculation in real estate, wild speculation on the parts of corporate America, which left corporate America in a very poor state and in the wake of the Great Recession. So we've gone from a long period where the output gap, real GDP being below potential GDP for such a long period of time, that it kind of masked the underlying demographics and labor issues, and also created this whole period where businesses have entered this this movement away from the coronavirus recession much more fearful than they probably would be otherwise. We all tend to overweight our most recent experience. And so our most recent experience, unfortunately, was the worst recession and the longest and deepest recession since the Great Depression. This is a different recession, and it's driven by the pandemic solely. So once we get to a point where we declare either an end to the pandemic, whether that means it's an endemic, something that we learn to live with, whatever that means, the economy structure is sound and we'll be in a much better position going forward.
Well, right now the biggest two issues appear to be inflation and supply, the supply chain problems. You're seeing perhaps that the supply chain problems, the worst days may be behind us?
Yeah, it's too early to say. What I would say is the data right now and our RSM US supply chain index show that we have likely seen the worst of the supply chain crisis. It doesn't mean that it's going to immediately improve. I think we're looking at a slow process. It just takes time to sort through this. In the meantime, we're not sure what the impact of the new Omicron variant will be in say parts of Asia or parts of South America or Europe, where we're so dependent in many cases on getting supplies overseas. So if they have a variant that spreads and causes stress on their side, then it's going to show up in our own supply chain here internally. So, I'm optimistic that we've seen the worst of it. In terms of inflation, I know that transitory from an economist perspective might be 1 to 2 years, and so certainly it's likely that the central bank isn't thrilled that they chose transitory to characterize it. It certainly is a problem for businesses in the short term. Longer term, however, what we see is that the disinflationary and deflationary impact of technology, increasing automation, that all these factors are kind of coming together that will create the conditions for a stable pricing environment longer term, even one that is a little bit more elevated than our long-term disinflationary and deflationary worries that stem from the Great Recession and really persisted up until the COVID-19 crisis.
So often we one of the things that we use to determine how strong the economy is retail, of course, and consumer spending. How important is this Christmas holiday?
It's interesting that in terms of the data, we have always tended to focus a significant amount of our attention on the Christmas holiday and the shopping season. It's become a little more flat, meaning that our consumption patterns have made it less important to rely on holiday sales, both on the retail side, from the retailer's perspective, and also on the household side. So part of that is the Amazon effect, right? We have the ability to go online and purchase things instantly, and that's been a process that has evolved over the last 20 years. So it's not as important as it used to be. We still look at it as a benchmark for what demand is like. Early anecdotal evidence is that people are eager to get back out, eager to do some shopping. We continue to see robust online sales, and I think we're also seeing a little bit of a surprise in foot traffic in certain spots, depending on where the retailers are located. So I'm optimistic that it will be a high quality holiday season when the data all comes in and all is said and done. It may not be the greatest one in the last 5 years, as some have said, but still the ingredients are there for robust consumption longer term. So I would say however this holiday season unfolds, our view is that longer term we're going to continue to see consumption at a very high level.
When we talk to you again this time next year, looking back at what you had said, what do you think is going to be the most significant thing for the coming year?
It may be that I don't have a beard, so we'll see how that goes. The most significant thing for this holiday season, I think, is just to start to get back to a sense of normalcy, a sense of being with family. I know that from me in my own household personally, it's less about obtaining specific items and it's more about experiences, which has been where services and retail have been trending anyway, away from the accumulation of goods and more toward experiences and services. So I would anticipate you'll see quite a few more family vacations, quite a few more experiential types of things happen. So I think we'll still look back and say that it was a good holiday season.
Kevin Depew, RSM Chief Deputy Economist. In a moment, the Galesburg Vaudeville House, the Orpheum, gets ready for Christmas. But first, Laura Adams has ideas for you in the days leading up to Christmas as we get ready to go out and about.
This is Out and About for December 16th through 23rd. Kids and parents can enjoy holiday treats, drop off last-minute letters to Santa, and get a special gift when they visit the Deck the Drive-Thru holiday event. Make a donation to Riverbend Food Bank, all while enjoying the holiday lights at Vibrant Credit Union's Bettendorf branch the 17th from 5 to 8. Families can attend a Polar Express pajama party. Enjoy the holiday classic, The Polar Express in 3D, on the giant screen while wearing PJs, and take part in holiday activities at the Putnam Museum the 18th from 5 to 10. Join a Bucktown Christmas with special performances by folk singer Ariel McReynolds, the Quarter Moon Tin Snips, and songwriter David G. Smith at Davenport Junior Theater December 17th at 7. Or be in the audience for the Big River Brass Band Concert, a very brassy Christmas, at St. Paul Lutheran Church the 19th at 3 p.m. The Elf on the Shelf, a Christmas musical, performs on the Adler Theater stage the 18th at 6, while the musical Winter Wonderland continues to enchant audiences at Circa 21 through the 29th. And Seussical the Musical also performs there through December 26th. The Tax Slayer Center is the venue for Stars on Ice, a special holiday performance on the 18th at 7, and the Renwick Mansion in Davenport present Tomfoolery on Tremont, featuring Erica Clark on December 17th at 8. For more information, visit WQPT.org.
Thank you, Laura. It seems so long ago when Rock Island Charlotte Boyer hit the national stage as a contestant on The Voice. But before that, she came to the Black Box Theater in Moline to perform one of her original works. So here's Charlotte Boyer with Free Like a Bird.
If I could fly, because I'd be the bravest bird in the sky. Whoa, I'd be free from all of my pain. Whoa, I'd be free to fly away. As I see the little children playing in the street, they all look so young, wild and free. That was exactly what I wanted to be. Live all my days young, wild and free. And now that I am free, I can spread my wings. No, there is no worrying for me. I feel like I'm a little kid again. Don't worry, my friend, I'll see you again. But just promise me you'll always give and love. Now you should follow this promise, it isn't tough. And I'll tell you this, you got to learn to love. See, you got to learn to give to those who got it rough. Now I'm sorry, friend, this is my time to go. Yeah, I've already told you all you need to know. Whoa, wouldn't it be nice, wouldn't it be nice if I could fly? Because I'd be the bravest bird in the sky. Whoa, I'd be free from all of my pain. Whoa, I'd be free to fly away. Yeah, I am free, I am free, I am free just like a bird. I am free.
Charlotte Boyer, Free Like a Bird. The Orpheum Theater in downtown Galesburg is a treasure in the city filled with decades of entertainment history. This month, it's exploring some of that history by staging a radio play that could have been heard on your family radio back in the 1940s. I got a chance to talk with the Orpheum's box office manager, Tim Holmes, about what audiences can expect. Well, at the top of the list for the Orpheum right now is Christmas on the Air, your live radio play. What's the premise of this?
So basically, we take the audience back in time to the 1940s, and they're the studio audience for a radio broadcast on Christmas Eve. So it's different holiday skits and commercials and things, all from the 40s. The first year we did it, it was all It's a Wonderful Life. There was a script actually for that you just presented the story of It's a Wonderful Life, and you had different actors at microphones with scripts and everything. And that was about 8 years ago. And the more we've done it, we've actually started to create our own. So we write our own sketches now and everything, and it's fun.
That's a great idea. And these radio plays on stage are they're actually a whole lot of fun to watch.
They are. When you describe it to someone, it doesn't sound very exciting because you're like, they're just standing there at mics and holding a script, but it really is fun to watch because everyone plays different characters and they switch off and, and you're going to different microphones and working with props to make sound effects and everything. So it's a great time.
Well, what's also great is that it really does transport you to a different time. I mean, the radio plays were such huge parts of the American life in the 30s, 40s, and early 50s.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And all of our, we base all of our sketches on the famous, like Our Miss Brooks and The Lone Ranger and different, all the I Love Lucy, the original My Favorite Husband. So it's just different characters and things that y'all know. And that was the entertainment of the day. So yeah,
tickets obviously are still available. And let's be honest, I mean, this is a great family production that you have. I mean, anybody, any age would love it.
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is our 7th or 8th year now. And so we've kind of created a following. And the actors that started off with us at the beginning are still in it. And they have their own like 1940s actor character that they are. And so it's just, we have one of them, Tex Haywood is kind of our Lone Ranger type character. And everybody wants to see Tex Haywood every year in the show. So it's, like I said, we just have this huge following now.
Tell me about the Orpheum, because let's be honest, Galesburg is so lucky to have an old vaudeville house that hasn't, been met with the wrecker's stone. It's still intact, a beautiful building. How important is it to the life and entertainment to Galesburg?
Oh, wow. Super important. Because the cool thing is, not only do we bring outside artists in and, different musicians and stuff, but so many local groups in our town use the theater for their productions. So, we have the symphony, we have a choral dynamics group that they do concerts for charity. They're always here. The high school comes and presents here. And because it was a movie theater for so long, working in the box office, I hear people tell stories all the time about growing up and coming to movies here and everything. I joke that I don't think anyone paid for a ticket because so many people tell me how they snuck into this building to see movies. And I thought, who ever paid for a ticket back then? Because everyone has a story that they just snuck in.
Yeah, so, they got a way to get in. It'd be nice if they pay now. Let's be honest, that would be awful nice.
Right.
Well, like you said, I mean, also the Nutcracker was being performed on December 18th by the Dancer Studio of Monmouth. I mean, you really are trying to bring as many different types of culture and entertainment into the building.
Absolutely, and they do a fantastic job, and we're lucky to have them. It's funny because we don't take the building for granted. But because we work here every day, when other people come into the building and they talk about it and admire it, it reminds us how lucky we really are.
Yeah, exactly. But also how costly these buildings are, not just Galesburg, but everywhere as well. You had your fundraising Follies that was just held to try to raise money. Is it really tough to keep a place like the Orpheum, vibrant? You got to pay the electricity bill. You got to pay everything else.
Absolutely. And the thing is, because it's historic, and things, repairs often are way more than I ever would imagine. It's nothing simple. Everything has to be, dealt with in a certain way, and it can get costly. So yeah, it's not cheap.
Well, Tim, for you and all the rest of the people at the Orpheum, I mean, performing, whether it is in musicals or plays or whatever, is in your blood. I mean, you got to be in front of that audience. And let's be honest, for the last 2 years with this pandemic, it has been very tough to reach the audience. Do you feel like there's this pent-up demand that people really want to get out. They want to see live performances.
Yes, absolutely. Because we did have a good year there where nobody was in the building. And for us, that was very strange. We were lucky enough that we all kept our jobs and we found creative ways to, we did things on YouTube and everything like that. But now that we're finally able to have these events happen again, people are clamoring to get back into the building, not just to see the live shows, but just to see the building again.
Yeah, actually, yeah, absolutely beautiful building. And tell me, I mean, because you have some COVID-19 precautions that you want to make sure that people do take if they come into the Orpheum.
Yes, we do require people to wear masks, regardless of their vaccination status. For a while, the performers on stage were also masking up. And now things have changed a little bit, so now they're able to not wear masks. But everybody from patrons to the ushers, all of us, we mask up.
So what do you expect for this coming year? What's on the plans? What's on the agenda for 2022?
Well, what's kind of going to be exciting is that it's a bunch of our groups, our local groups that I mentioned, they're all now able to come back. So it's almost like almost a homecoming year where we'll have those choral concerts again, and we got some comedians planned and some different things. And then our regular groups, we have some local theater companies that do shows here and stuff. And like you mentioned, they're itching to get back here. So like I said, it's like old home week or old home year maybe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let's be honest. I mean, tell me a little bit about that for the arts to be able to come back in 2022. You really do kind of want to have COVID in your rearview mirror.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What's kind of funny, I mean, sort of funny, is that right at the beginning of this whole pandemic, we talked about the fall, and someone said, "Oh, this is still happening in the fall." I was, we're not going to make it. And of course, now 2 years later, here we are. And I have to say that our community has been super supportive in keeping us going, even when we were shut down. So,
well, what we have found in community after community, if you don't have a lively art scene, it really does hurt the entire, lifestyle of a city. And so to have the Orpheum in Galesburg, it's really important to support community arts centers such as that, because you're not only supporting the building, you're supporting those performers who just, they do so much for the community. Absolutely. And like when we had our telethon last year, our fundraising follies, we were reaching out to all these performers to come in, and we filmed them, so it was safe. And we had no trouble getting people to come perform. They all wanted to. They were grateful to have the opportunity to perform. And then the community really turned out and supported it as well. So it was just a win-win all across the board. And it really showed us how much the community cares about us. So Tim, one last pitch, Christmas on the Air. It's going to be at the Orpheum. Yes. Be there. Yes, Tuesday, December 21st. It's a great time, like I said. And then the Nutcracker coming on the 18th. So we're gonna go right up to Christmas with having a great time. The Orpheum's box office manager, Tim Holmes. On the air, on the radio, on the web, on your mobile device, and streaming on your computer. Thanks for taking some time to join us as we talk about the issues on the cities.
Whelan Presley Funeral Home and Crematory, a proud supporter of WQPT, has been serving Quad City families since 1889. They now have live stream capabilities for viewing your loved one's funeral or memorial service.
At IHM VCU, we've always been here for you. You are and always will be our top priority. We care about your financial and physical health, and we are here. IHM VCU is a proud supporter of WQPT.